Hi everyone, my name is Alex and I'm joined with my colleague Freddie today. We are going to be talking about tax requirements and Amazon mischarges. So we're just going to wait for everyone to come in the room. Just give it a minute or so just for people to come through. We can see the numbers going up already. Whilst you guys are entering the room, if you do already have any questions that you want to ask today, please put them in the chat box below. It's going to be quite a brief webinar, sort of 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll have time for some questions from everyone. So if you already have some, please just get them in early and we can go through as many as possible. Okay, should we start?
Yeah, looks good.
Perfect. Okay, so like we mentioned, my name is Alex. I'm joined with Freddie today. We're here from the strategy and growth team at AVASK. We focus on allowing businesses to get the most out of their business models and how to sort of really opportunize on those current issues that they may have in their business, or make them aware of cash flow areas they could benefit from in their business. So myself and Freddie have worked on a lot of these cases, and we want to give you guys some examples today so you can see how you could maybe apply these to your business, or you might be one of those sellers who's also being impacted by these cases. So just disclaimer, this presentation is provided by AVASK and it is no content is associated with Amazon. We will be talking into some Amazon examples that we have seen professionally, but this is they are not responsible for any information provided. So the big question that we're going to be focusing on today is, are you being correctly charged VAT on your Amazon invoices? So most businesses are struggling as a result of cash flow at the moment. Obviously, products are going up. Freddie's well sort of into the custom side of things. You're seeing shipping going up. You're seeing products increasing in value. And we can see all of these businesses trying to find ways to bring their costings down, right? But what if you have hundreds or tens of thousands in Amazon that you could get back that's just sat there, right? It's a no-brainer. We're seeing lots of these cases at the moment filtering through where businesses have actually been charged VAT wrongly by Amazon, and it's just sitting in their VAT invoices, right? So what happens, how can it happen, and what does it mean? So we're seeing Amazon invoicing are charging VAT on invoices. You get so many invoices coming through in your document library that you don't look at them all. Of course, you haven't got time to look at them all. You're planning your business, you're going about your day-to-days in your businesses. But there could be hundreds of thousands in these invoices that are going either unreclaimed because they're not being sent to your tax provider, or they shouldn't have been charged in the first place. They wouldn't have been able to be reclaimed, which is one of the most common areas we're seeing at the moment. So let's take some examples. Case study one. So we could have an address issue. Amazon are billing you from .com. They're treating you as if you're based in the UK. You're not based in the UK, you're based in the US. So you're receiving tax on invoices. You are not a UK VAT registered business. You have nowhere to reclaim these funds from. This is putting you straight away at a cash flow disadvantage.
Absolutely. And I think one of the most common examples that we see is actually for an FBA or a 3PL being left as your entity address on these invoices. So it's always worth doing a little bit of digging in your previous invoices, maybe in the previous years where you've started your expansion journey, just to check that all of the information that's provided on these invoices actually do correlate with what's real to your business information. Even more so if you had a recent change in address and that doesn't reflect on these invoices, that's always worth double checking as well.
Most definitely. That the algorithms that these marketplaces work in can be on so many different variables. So it could just be that you as a sole trader as an individual are based in a specific location, or your warehouse is in a specific location. And we see now and again that these addresses can get mixed up, which can cause cases such as the one Freddie just mentioned, where we've seen cases recently where the Amazon warehouse address has actually ended up on the business address, or the seller's location has actually ended up on the business address. You should always be invoiced based on where those business operations are occurring. So making sure this is correct should ensure that you're getting invoiced correctly. However, we both know that still doesn't mean they always get invoiced correctly. I've seen invoices with the correct address going on, but you aren't being charged VAT when you should have been. You are being charged VAT when you shouldn't have been. You are being charged the wrong VAT rate, the wrong country, putting you in a disadvantage maybe where it's a higher percentage and you're waiting longer for that percentage difference to get reclaimed, and areas like this. So the address is probably the most common one Freddie and I will see on the regular basis with these invoicings being incorrect. And this is why we're bringing it to you today, because you receive an invoice, you expect it to be correct. You wouldn't second guess anything like this. So having a look into them, bringing them to our attention, and we can see if we can diagnose for you. They're definitely on a case-by-case basis, right?
Definitely. I think if we maybe talk about the specific case that we saw recently as well, is more often than not the client has been maybe selling for copious amount of years and are now strapped for cash with cost of living going up, sourcing your products being more expensive as natural resources also become more expensive. It's that cash that is now free, I would definitely utilize if it's either leveraging maybe new terms with your manufacturer, or even investing it into further marketing that you may have wanted to invest in to then again see more sales. So all of that is really one of the reasons why you'd want to investigate your previous selling habits and maybe see if there's something you can do just to free up this otherwise held up cash, right? If it's just sitting around somewhere with Amazon, it's not going to do you any good. So I would certainly, even if you're just curious, might not be the case, but just have a look around and see if there is anything that you can maybe do.
Definitely. If the cash is there, you want to get it, don't you? So moving on to our second most popular case study, and there are a long list of options that come up with mischarging VAT, but the two we've decided to sort of target today are definitely the most common two we see, which is the address and the VAT number. So ensuring you have a VAT number if you need one, and ensuring that is uploaded onto your Amazon marketplace or any other marketplaces for that matter is crucial, because that VAT number can dictate the specific VAT rules that will apply, whether the reverse charge mechanism applies, whether the place of supply rules are altered, and all elements like that. So ensuring you have your VAT number if necessary and it's uploaded on your Seller Central or your relevant marketplace is paramount. I see so many sellers still today been trading for 5-6 years. They never even realized they'd never put their VAT number on there. So going back and historically having those invoices amended, it makes it a lot harder than it sort of ever needed to be. Without having the VAT number, you'll be incurring non-reclaimable VAT charges, and not uploading the VAT number will allow Amazon to invoice you as a non-registered VAT entity, therefore possibly incurring VAT charges unnecessarily. Obviously, if you're a VAT registered business, you're trading with Amazon, it can depend on what marketplace we're referring to. Are you a UK business trading in .com? Are you a US business trading into the EU, etc.? Different VAT rules apply for those different pairings. So thinking of the multitude of marketplaces you're trading on, and you as an entity is where it gets very case specific. So I would firstly make sure if you're check all the different marketplaces. We are seeing cases like this on .com, Canada, Mexico, Australia, UK and EU. We are seeing it across the board. These sort of cases come up where we have to work with the clients to get the monies back from Amazon. So making sure, one, you're checking everything, checking your VAT numbers on there. And if you have any queries such as this of Alex, I don't think this quite looks right, or Freddie, is this normal? Please send them over to us. So that's why we've gone through this today. So most important thing, make sure your VAT number is on your invoice, is uploaded to your Seller Central, and that should straight away from the date you put your VAT number in, invoices effective from that date onwards can be and should be accounted for in the appropriate way, which was most likely a reverse charge system that would be applied. However, if you're then putting your VAT number on late and you have been invoiced when you were VAT registered without that VAT number on there, that's when we need to get the team at Amazon involved to help you get back those funds, because you were VAT registered despite the VAT number not being detailed on that invoice. So there's these specific ways to go about things.
Absolutely. And given the relationship that we have with Amazon, it's really a different level of support that we would be able to provide to people who do find themselves in a situation where they are going through an audit with ourselves, for instance, and then realizing that there is cash that then can be recovered. I think that in itself should give enough incentive to a bunch of sellers who then maybe realize that, okay, I know that Amazon might not always be the most responsive people to deal with, and maybe I'm not getting the right person to talk to about this. In those situations, it really does help if you have someone with the experience in the industry and the experience with the type of relationships that we have with Amazon to then utilize those with essentially helping you guys out.
Yes, definitely. And this is why we offer this service, right? We know how frustrating it can be to communicate with these different seller support systems on these different marketplaces. And where we are our preferred partners, we can really help get you the point of contact you need. We handle the case on your behalf. You've got few days to respond to a case before it gets closed. So we really offer the services where we can monitor that for you for that reason, right? Is so that you can relax whilst we try and work out the VAT matters for you in the background.
Exactly. Given that it's such a time-intensive thing, I think it's always worth having that almost outsourced, because otherwise you really do, you would spend a couple of hours a day on those situations often.
100%. And we know you can get different answers from different people, and having the tax knowledge and that legislation to support all your claims, having those sort of not just raising case, but having that legal explanation and support can really help you get it resolved quicker with the marketplaces, right?
Definitely. Not giving any margin for error in those responses, so that there's nothing they can go back on.
No question left unanswered. So they can't just ask the question.
Precisely.
So Freddie, you were going to talk to us a bit about how your VAT obligations are triggered.
Absolutely, yeah. So if, for instance, you're a company that is wanting to utilize Amazon, you may have noticed that as soon as in the country of incorporation, as well as any country that you're storing in, you'll now need your VAT number. Given that you're facilitating sales from so many different situations, it's often a question of, okay, which VAT number is actually highlighted on these invoices, and that's automatically triggered by Amazon in itself. With these different schemes, such as Pan-EU as highlighted in this presentation, where you really have 7 different countries where they're stored in, you then have sales facilitated maybe outside of these 7 countries. So often with the different member states in Europe, you will have distant sales that these goods go to, so countries where you're not VAT registered in, and that often raises the question of, what do I do in case there is someone who questions the invoice that they receive? Of course, if you fail to register for VAT in a country in which you're required in, so if you're storing in a country and you don't have that VAT number, there are penalties that will essentially be held against you, and tax authorities are very brutal in regards to this. They often also like knocking on people's doors if failure of communication occurs or anything like that. It can be as minimal as a couple of £100 that will trigger this VAT obligation, but it's definitely necessary to not forget about. Further requirements when selling into the EU, they can range to different scopes in these days. So if you're importing in Europe, or if you want to export from Europe, you will need something called an EORI number. Essentially, this number, or this registration number, registers your business for the import and export, so any economic activity within Europe. Similarly, now with the UK, they've got their separate registration. They'll need that as well. This number, alongside with the relevant VAT number, will be used on the import declarations or any customs declarations. So it's crucial to have these highlighted on these declarations as well for any VAT reclaims that can go on.
Most definitely. And the main theme I think that's coming about from this conversation is cash flow and optimizing your business where you can. So you've been involved, Freddie, so much in the custom side, importing. What do you think is, especially with the introduction of PVA, what are you still seeing as one of the biggest cash flow advantages or disadvantages you're seeing sellers doing at the moment?
So yeah, and any VAT deferral scheme, depending on which country you're wanting to import into, you often have to sit together with your transport provider, which by now can be AVASK as well, right? Where you sit down and say, okay, I need to move inventory from point A to point B. I have X amount of time to achieve this, and I'll need to do this on these amounts of periods throughout a year. What's the most cost-effective way of doing that for me? And what we would then do is pull out a big map and say, okay, well, listen here, there are import routes that go through X, Y, and Z, which we believe will be very beneficial to you. We've got transport partners in these regions to benefit from, to really utilize the relationships that we already have within this industry to then make sure that the quotes that you receive are fair and you don't get inflated prices because maybe you don't have standing relationships with them. And yeah, that's really what we try and leverage in most cases, right? So we believe that relationships should always be two ways. So if you're happy with us, we're happy with you, and you can only be happy if you think that you're being treated fairly.
Definitely. I still sort of get surprised by the conversations happen of, oh, I want my goods to be in this specific country. Like Germany is always the go-to answer, right? I want my goods in Germany. That's where the market is. But you can still get that advantage by going through those different through roads and having such a large cash flow advantage by not outpaying import VAT that you might not get back for 2 to 6 to even up to a year. So it's really about optimizing and utilizing that knowledge from different service providers and people in your network of things like these audit of the invoices, the PVA schemes are available, Amazon reimbursements. You can have cash in your business without having to cut down costs in other areas to reduce maybe the product you're selling.
Absolutely. I think a further point on that is as well, if you then look at, okay, which country can I use VAT deferral schemes in, chances are there are different customs procedures that would be followed within these countries as well. Meaning your valuations might look differently because you're using a different provider or whatever it may be. If these valuations fluctuate and they all of a sudden it means that your overall consignment value drops, that is usually a good thing because your taxes are based on a percentage of the consignment value, meaning you're paying a lower tax or duty rate on these goods, right?
Definitely. We weren't going to cover that one. Perfect. So just a quick summary, because I think that's one of our most common questions, is going through a bit of the difference between sales tax and VAT. We still get this a lot, and this comes into the equation with the .com invoices versus the European invoices. How do they perhaps differ? So sales tax added at the time of purchase, obviously compared to the VAT process that's charged at all levels of production. So the way you would see these charges being incurred for a UK company compared to perhaps a US company should be entirely different. And it's looking at your sales as a business, which is why I'd say we won't answer any case-specific questions on these mischarged invoices on the webinar today. Please put in your questions or your contact details or whatever, or reach out to us on our contact details, because these are so case specific. It could be where you're incorporated, where your business is trading, your effective date of VAT registration, what marketplaces are we talking about? There's so many different possibilities and variables that could impact these Amazon mischarges. So look, comparing yourselves and having a Google of it or whatsoever will give you very different answers, and it really needs to be sat down AVASK are more than happy to help. Have a look at these invoices and just double check that everything is correct and whether or not you've got monies there or not.
I think the with the free flow of information as is at the moment, it's fantastic that you're able to do your own research, but you also do come across a lot of self-proclaimed experts these days, especially in the world of e-commerce, that definitely hinder or often make it very expensive mistakes for growth or any type of tax legislative research that you would have conducted. So it's always important just to get someone who's very in touch within the industry, who's got relationships with tax authorities, to then make sure that the flow of information that you do receive is filtered and correct.
Most definitely, most definitely. Well, we said around 20 minutes, so we absolutely nailed that on timing, because we definitely wanted to leave some time for everyone's questions to come through. I can see the chat bot is already going up with questions, so we're just going to pull those through onto the screen now. Okay, perfect. So we've got a question here from Jintas. Can Amazon USA charge a UK company VAT for sales in a USA marketplace? So if this is the company is not UK VAT registered and no sales in UK. So from what you've told me, UK company trading on .com, you should not be being incurred VAT on those invoices. However, are those different elements. Like I said, it can be based on whether or not you were ever VAT registered, where the operations are, etc. So for a UK VAT registered business, you should not. And then for if you are not a UK VAT registered business, then it probably looks like you should have been charged on those invoices. But please do send some through just for me to double check, because like I said, there can be some real intricacies into this. But if you are not UK VAT registered and you're not making sales in the UK, then you're trading on .com, you probably should be being incurred VAT on those invoices that are coming through. I originally didn't have my tax number in my UK and EU marketplaces and was incorrectly charged VAT. I have updated now and opened Amazon support case to claim the VAT charged to me. Perfect. The case has been open for 14 months and still pending action by Amazon. They send me a template every 7 days but never progress. Is there a trick to getting this money reclaimed? So perfect question, Steve, and this is a very common case that I do see. Probably our most common one around is the UK VAT numbers into the EU. So you will get the pending action by Amazon for quite some time. That definitely does linger back and forth. I would say the way AVASK set up these cases on behalf of our sellers is from a very legal perspective. We are tax providers and we provide the relevant legislation in all of the cases, which make it quite a done deal and less of a sort of lingering on process. We also communicate with our partners or points of contact directly at these marketplaces to get these pushed through. Obviously, it's with the marketplace in terms of the actual refund, but we are able to take advantages of points of contact and communicate with them directly to help push these funds through as an escalation, which we have seen a lot lately. So we're more than happy to help you. In terms of what you've done so far, you seem to have done most of what you can. I would say as a last resort, if you haven't done it, I know you mentioned you have the issue in the UK and EU, and making sure you're opening those cases new regularly and on a multitude of marketplaces can get different results when you have different response agents on the case. So reach out to us and send us sort of a summary of what you've done so far, and we can definitely help. Can existing AVASK clients benefit from this? Yes, most definitely. So we can definitely help you. It is a service that's currently held within the strategy team. So if you send your queries directly to myself or Freddie, we've got the email bar coming across the bottom of the screen, and this is something that we can definitely loop in and help you on. Please let me know how I can contact you. So perfect. Hi, Oliver. The email address is coming across the bottom of the screen. Send your queries through to there and we would be more than happy to help. I'm not sure if there's any more questions, just having a check. If not, I will leave a couple more seconds for any last questions to come through. But Freddie, what would you say is your main takeaway from today for people watching?
I think even if you're unsure, just having it check or have someone check it is worth it. I mean, it doesn't cost anything. It's apart from time, naturally. So just having that benefit of making sure that everything has gone smoothly over the years of sellers being active on these marketplaces is beneficial, right? And if that means you all of a sudden have more cash available to use to reinvest in certain things, then I only see that as a benefit.
Definitely, I'd agree. It doesn't harm to check. And one thing I've seen recently as well, I'm not sure if you've seen it, Freddie, but I've seen it where the VAT was being charged correctly, it was being reverse charged. So sort of it went off your radar, weren't checking like, oh, okay, it's all sorted. Then I've seen it come back.
Yeah.
For like the last 3 months or so. So it's sort of continuously doing the housekeeping on the invoices, right?
Yeah, that's a bit of a bizarre situation, as it shouldn't technically happen once you've updated the systems, right, with Amazon. But it can happen for various different reasons if it's your dispatch country changes or anything like that. So it can influence these changes, and I think it's always worth keeping an eye on.
Definitely. Got another question in from Dan. Is the VAT situation the same for advertising VAT as well as FBA fees in the USA? So to be honest, the invoices we see most commonly with all of these issues are your seller fees and your product ads. So this is where most of the issues are underlying, and where we see the incorrect charges come through is those two. And normally if it's you have it on one, you have it on both. I very rarely see someone with just the issue on ads or just the issue on seller fees. Most case we have is that both of them have been impacted because they work on the same algorithm, essentially. Amazon is overcharging VAT at 20%, but I'm on the margin schemes in the UK and Germany. Any chance I get a difference back? So margin scheme, and I'm sure you would have seen this as well, has impacted on Amazon. It's quite difficult to trade now on Amazon with the margin scheme since collect and remit obviously makes it difficult. Amazon are taking the 20% charge. I have not seen a way that this has been charged and you'll be able to get it back through the margin scheme. That's quite a unique one I've not seen before, but I'd be more than happy to look into it for you and see if we can help you recoup any of those funds at all. So please do send an email to the strategy email, and I'd be more than happy to see if we can help with the margin scheme through that. No problem, Steve. No props at all. Okay. I think we're coming up to the 30-minute mark. So we will end the webinar here, but I want to say a big thank you for everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure, and feel free to reach out on the strategy@avaskgroup.com if you've got any further questions.
Thank you, everyone.